KUGAN, CASSIUS Rivalry TV in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella. We're at Liverpool here today. Hilton Hotel, Smith versus Mohammadi. Cardle-Dodd 2, Fielding Rabras, Doran Keeler, live on Sky Sports.
We like
live
this one.
8:05.
We like this one. Well, 8 o'clock, but the first fight will be 8:05.
Alright, so make sure you're tuned in before then. Before we start, I want to talk over to you spoken to you about this. We were in Sheffield and kind of got the news on the way home about Nick Blackwell's situation. Yeah. Obviously, Joe Gallagher said in the press conference, I don't know how true that is, that they're going to try and wake Nick up today. So we've got some good news. You've watched the fight.
I haven't seen all of the fight. I've seen, when we were travelling back, because I went away the day after, I saw clips of it. So it looked like a good fight. Listen, it's, you know, I know there's been stuff saying they should have been pulled out or the referee should have jumped in. All I can say is that I think Victor Loughran is one of the top referees in British boxing, and I think Gary Lockett is one of the top trainers in British boxing, and I think you'll struggle to find someone that cares more about their fighters than Gary Lockett. So, and you know, it's difficult. You know, from what I've seen of the fight, you know, obviously he was in the fight. He was, you know, he wanted to be in the fight. Obviously, the swelling of the eye looks like it might have helped him in the end, because someone like Nick Blackwell, they won't stop. You know, he's got heart of a lion. So I know there hasn't been much news coming out.
All good,
right, mate. See you later. See you tomorrow.
Thank you,
right,
mate.
right. See you later, mate.
See you later on. Sean, be lucky, mate.
So you know, I don't know how bad the injury is. You know, I think they haven't operated, as I understand it, which I think hopefully is good news, because generally I think if it was a big bleed to the brain, you would. So everybody's thoughts with him. You know, I think it's a side of the sport that you don't get to see that much anymore because of the improvements that have been made by the British Boxing Board of Control. You know, the response, the oxygens at ringside, the access to the hospitals is better than ever. But it's a brutal sport, and injuries are going to happen. And unfortunately, it happened to Nick Blackwell, who, you know, again, so you know, Coog, all these fighters you meet, they're the nicest people you can meet, and Nick Blackwell is another absolute gentleman of the sport. And this is why fighters deserve absolutely all the spoils of the sport. And you know, I always talk about money, but I don't know any other way to tell you. This is it's a brutal sport. You've got to be rewarded, and sometimes it disgusts me the way that fighters are treated, because they don't get the respect they deserve. You know, fighters don't get sometimes the money they deserve. They're treated like bits of meat sometimes. You know, they're not paid on time. They're waiting months and months to get paid. You know, if you're employing someone to do a job for you, even if it was on your house, you don't wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months to pay them. You know, I think we're all here because of what the fighters do. You know, I'm a promoter because the fighters get in there and fight. You know, you're doing what you do because the fighters are there for you to interview. They're the ones that need to be respected. They're the ones that need to be treated the best out of everybody. And, you know, we're all hoping, you know, every morning I check my Twitter and I type in Nick Blackwell, it's my #1 search. And I search hoping to get some good news, you know. And I'm hoping that because of all the events so far that he is going to be okay. And, you know, of course the normal police will be out talking about, you know, the boxing should be banned. You know. Every fighter knows the risks, and it is a dangerous sport. So is motor racing, you know. But it's an unfortunate incident, and they're few and far between these days, especially in this country. And obviously it's very unfortunate, and to be honest with you, it makes everybody in boxing feel sick. It doesn't matter whether it's you, whether it's my fighter, whether it's someone else's fighter, whether it's the opponent, whether it leaves you with that horrible feeling in your stomach, because you know what fighters go through. You know what I mean? And it's horrible, and we're all hoping for good news.
I listened to Peter Hamlin, who operated on Michael Watson many years ago. He said a couple of notable things. He first said that obviously statistic-wise that boxers are more prone to end up in hospital after title fights. We can understand why. He also said that the only way of really stopping this is for referees to come in and stop the fights earlier. Now, I'm just going to ask you, if a fighter's getting battered for 6-7 rounds, but they don't look like they're going to be stopped in the fight, should the fight be stopped by the referee?
And I think you're getting more of that now than you've ever had it before. And you see that particularly in fights that sometimes aren't televised. Do you know what I mean? Even if a journeyman's in, some of these guys just aren't going to get stopped. Would Eubank have stopped, as in knocked out Nick Blackwell? Maybe not. He probably would have gone the 12 rounds. And that's the same for a lot of these fighters on the undercard. But like you say, if you can't win the fight, and I think that's the best way to describe it, if there is no way of you winning the fight, why be in there taking punishment? You know what I mean? And that's not talking about the Eubank-Blackwell fight. That's so many other fights where a fighter's on top in the fight. You're 5 rounds in of a 6-round contest. You're looking at the guy thinking, he's not going to be stopped in this fight, but let's stop. He's taking too much. Then you get the other side, which is the demands of the fans. The fans are ruthless. Froch Groves, great example. George Groves weren't going to quit. He could have got hurt in that fight. But the referee jumped in because he felt like Groves was deteriorating, he was going to get hurt. There's loads of other fights I can tell you, but Sean Dodd against Scotty Cardle. Now actually I saw quotes from Sean Dodd.
I was just asking about
that. Saying, listen, maybe the ref did me a favour.
Yeah.
I was tired, I could have got hurt in that fight. He could have. You never know what's going to happen, do you, in the next 10 or 20 seconds of anyone's life. So...
But all right, where do you stand the view on, say there's a fight between a puncher and a boxer, and the boxer's winning 10 rounds, but that puncher could land one at any point. So where do you land that?
You're pulling string, like you're pulling straws for it. Like anyone is capable at any moment of finding that punch with 10-ounce gloves on, as long as you've got something left in the tank to stop. But it doesn't matter if you're taking 100 shots to that one. You can always say, but I had a puncher's chance in the fight.
But if it wasn't for the eye, Blackwell would have, like I said,
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
You don't know what would have happened.
But you can't, that mentality is in these boys. They'll fight till the end. So, especially someone like Nick Blackwell, who is, he is a tough kid. Speak to anyone that's sparred him. They all say exactly the same thing. So you have to be saved from yourself. But all I'm saying is, and I haven't watched enough of the fight to give you the honest answer, but all I can tell you is the people around him, Victor and Gary Lockett, they care. So, I find it very hard to look at those people. I've seen Gary Lockett threw the towel in when Gavin Rees boxed Adrian Broner. And listen, he will always, of all the trainers in boxing, he's got to be right up there in terms of ones that I truly believe care for their fighters. He will be devastated through this, and it happens. It happens, and I don't know, what else to tell you other than that every now and again, in a dangerous sport, you're going to get an injury.
Well,
but I believe that the precautions that are in place from the British Boxing Board of Control, even down to the checkways and the general care of the fighters. Robert Smith, whilst everybody will fall out of him now and again, because you're gonna, he cares about the fighters. He's an ex-fighter himself. He'll be hurting just as much as Gary Lockett or these guys, because he cares. But there is more attention to the weights of the fighters before, and in the past, fighters that have got injured, the weight making has been a problem. The dehydration is a problem. And they're always looking at that kind of stuff. And, all I can tell you is that people care, and everyone wants to make the sport safer, and it is so much more safer than it's ever been. But it's a dangerous sport, and in sport, a contact sport like this, injuries will happen.
Well, let's hope for some positive news on this.
100%. Like I said, I check it every day, and I hope. I didn't know that what Joe Gallagher said, but if that's the case, fantastic. And
hopefully
you know.
so. Right, yeah, talking about your card this week. Interesting situation regarding Callum Smith. Obviously, we know 30th of April, DeGale Medina, Jack against Bute. Now, if we're going by what we expect to possibly happen, DeGale to win, Badu Jack to win, we're assuming that that fight's going to take place. Can you see Callum Smith having to wait a long time for his mandatory slot if he comes to
maybe. I mean, I think if Callum wins on Saturday night, he'll be looking to box again in September, which is when the mandatory will be called. If there's a unification fight, I think probably that will get priority. But I know the demands of those fighters in a fight like that, and I'm not sure the money's there. Between Jack and DeGale.
Right.
Like, it's a great fight, and I'm sure they can do well. But you know, is it a pay-per-view fight in the UK? With the logjam? No, I don't think it is. You know, is it a pay-per-view fight in America? No, it's not. Is there the license fee to come up with the goods for the multi-million-pound payday for both fighters? The answer is no. But yeah, I don't know. So if Callum has to wait, he has to wait, and then he'll get the winner of that. But it's okay. I don't mind. The key is to become the mandatory. Then it's my job to put as much pressure on as possible. If he has to box again in September, defend his European, defend his British, no problem. You get it in January or February. But once you get it, no one can take it away from you, and it's going to happen.
Before that, he's got a tough fight ahead of himself.
Do you know, this card, I'm really excited about this card. 4 top TV fights: Doran against Keeler, Fielding against Rabras, Cardle against Dodd 2, and Muhammadi against Callum. When you look at the odds, pretty much every fight is 50-50. I know there's a couple of 10-3 Rabras, but again, I see that as a 50-50 fight. Cardle-Dodd. But they make Callum quite a big favourite against Muhammadi. And, you know, talking to James DeGale, he really thinks it's a tough fight for Callum Smith. He's boxed Muhammadi, went points with him. He's a right handful. He's on a roll. He's got new promoters, new team, 5 KOs in the last 6. He's the European champion. This is going to be a really tough fight. I think this will tell us a lot about Callum Smith.
And Rocky Fielding obviously coming back after his devastating defeat to Callum Smith in a tough fight again. We know a lot about Rabras now, being over here. He's fought a couple of guys over here, so. And
it's ballsy for taking it. Now, all this, I was a bit outspoken at the press conference today, because it was like, I was trying to get across the fact that we all want fights like these, you know, where you don't know who's going to win. Yeah, you got your guy you think might win, but generally it could go either way. But all these guys should be applauded, and their managers, because it's not just the fighters. And we go back to talking about that warrior code. They all fight anyone. But generally, it's the manager or the trainer saying, "I will have that in 6 months." So Doran Keeler was a great example. Luke Keeler was boxing in Liverpool, in Birmingham. I texted Dave Colburn and said, "I'd love to make Doran Keeler rematch in Liverpool on April 2nd. Yeah, we'll have that." He came out of the ring, Luke Keeler, after winning on points, said to Pascal Collins, "I'd love to make Doran Keeler. Yeah, we'll have that." That's like, it doesn't have to be that difficult. Too many people are afraid of losing or afraid of having, you know, and that's why I saw some back and forwards about Adam Etches, you know, from our interview last week. Apparently I was disrespectful because I said the bloke he fought was shit. He was shit. Well, I'm going to lie to you. I didn't want that fight on TV. You know, I put forward a number of other opponents for televised fights, and they didn't want to fight them because he was coming, or he just had one fight since the Kaminsky loss. I understand that. I'm not looking to put you in wars every fight. I'm just saying that if we want to put it on TV, it's got to be a certain level. Fortunately for the viewer, the fights ended early, and that fight got shown, and I didn't enjoy watching it. In fact, I watched it through my fingers like this, because I know what everyone at home's thinking, and we're under pressure more than ever to put on good fights. So, sorry if I called that bloke shit, but he was shit. You would have been it.
I think, judging by some things I'm hearing, that Adam was obviously upset about a certain few things, like he wasn't on the press conference table.
Yeah, but he was invited to the press conference by us, and he didn't come up and sit down because I don't know if there was a name tag, but he was invited by us to come. He just sat. He chose to not get up and make his way there. Whatever. But even they were going to fight a Brazilian guy who I wasn't happy with either. Right? So I didn't want that fight on TV. That fight fell through, and then we got this late replacement who he was terrible. Sorry, he was terrible. And I looked at the record and I knew what kind of fight it was going to be. And when Sky said we're going to put the Etches fight in because we've had Campbell's finished early or the one before, I just thought, oh no.
Done a lot of tickets though, Adam, for the show, didn't
Yeah, he sold about 400 tickets. He got paid very well. But again, I like Adam Etches. I think he's a good fighter. But I can't, I just feel like you're not going to get anything. That the other opponents were turned down where I think you can learn more from. You can develop what you've been learning in the gym. Can you do that against opponents like that? My opinion is no.
Cardle-Dodd.
Yeah.
You promised Sean Todd the rematch straight after in the dressing room. You come in and told him. You said it on Sky as well. This is an interesting fight, isn't it?
I think it's a great fight. I think Sean Dodd, his own quote from the press conference, he feels like a superhuman being. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
And you can see that in his demeanour. I mean, you've interviewed him. I guess you find that he's very confident in the fight. The first fight was one of the best fights of 2015, and I think you're going to get exactly the same, but only a 2016 version. Scotty got rattled by the atmosphere, and he'll be trying not to. He's already rattled. I mean, it was like you couldn't have got off to a worse start. It was Scotty, keep calm, and then straight away at the press at the head-to-head, this that. It's just going to be the same fight. I just hope that the head's not used as much. And there was a lot of accidental headbutts, but Scotty cut, and I want 12 rounds of action. That's what I want. I think you're going to see a better Sean Dodd, but I think you're going to see a better Scotty Cardle as well. But I'll tell you what, I can't wait. And actually, Dodd sold over 1,000 tickets for this card,
Incredible.
which is incredible. I mean, only the top, there's 1% of fighters do that in this country. In fact, you got Josh Warrington, and Sean Dodd to do over 1,000 for a British title fight is unbelievable. But he's not just got those 1,000; he's got the other 5,000 in the arena on Saturday, cheering him on. Because although he's from Birkenhead, it's Liverpool, kind of. Well, no, it's not. It's not apparently. Well, you know what I'm saying. So Scotty's got to keep his cool, and it's going to be very difficult.
Should be a good show.
I think it's a great show. And then next week, it's squeaky bum time.
Let's not even get into that yet. We've got a whole week of that.
Okay.
It's a signal schedule. I've been inundated with tweets about whether Eddie Hearn has watched KUGAN's latest Frank Warren video. So the question is, have you watched? I know you've been away.
After my last interview, where you passed on a message from Frank to tell me off.
It wasn't to tell you off. It was something quite specific.
Yeah. I haven't stopped laughing. I think it's so funny that it wound him up that badly. After the Kell Brook show, I went on holiday on the Sunday, Portugal. This weren't 8 minutes on a sunbed. This was a little bit of Portugal sun. And I saw you tweet an interview with Frank Warren, and I thought to myself, there's 10 or 15 minutes of my life that I'll never ever get back, so I'll swerve it. And I said, I just texted you, I said, what did he say? And you said, oh, you didn't sell out Sheffield. No, I didn't sell out Sheffield. We had 7,000 in there. I thought it was quite a good crowd, actually. I haven't watched it. I can't be bothered to watch it. I think with all the stuff going on around in boxing at the moment as well, I can't be bothered to rant or wind him up anymore. I'm just gonna give him some time off and just let him relax. Even though I'm sorry, you want something from me.
No, I don't. If you haven't watched it, then obviously.
I haven't. I just texted you, didn't I,
No,
the other
you
night
said to
saying
me,
what was in it.
What
And
was in it? And I said, well, he spoke about Sheffield and obviously StubHub as well.
Well, StubHub is the same as always. StubHub sell face value tickets on our behalf. There is also a secondary site where the public resell tickets if they want to. Our tickets are marked promoters. They're just another box office for us. I've said it a million times. We didn't sell out Sheffield. No, we sold 7,000 tickets. Thought it was a great crowd, great atmosphere. Tickets a little bit disappointing here this week, I will say. Done about 5,000, which is considerably more than the Derry Matthews against Terry Flanagan card.
Can I say one thing? I know, like, obviously Frank said his comments about your show, but that was in reference to you making comments about the Flanagan-Matthews show, which in hindsight really isn't anything to do with you, to make comments on their shows and their numbers.
I don't mind him not making comments on my shows. I'm not having a go at him making.
No, but I know, but that was in response to that, obviously.
Yeah, but I don't mind. He can say.
All right, just saying.
The fact is, I don't give a monkeys. He's lost his marbles at my interview. I was only just trying to pull his plonker. You know what I mean? Just having a little bit of fun, a bit of banter. But I know how much he lost his rag, so I'm going to calm down and just say, just carry on. And just, like I said, I think in the boxing world, particularly this week, there's more important things to worry about than winding Mr. Warren up. Even if it's my favourite pastime.
Okay. All right, well, listen, weigh in tomorrow at St James's.
Yep, St James's Hotel.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. Like I say, get down. I think this is a great show. I really do. I'm excited for. It was like Sheffield was okay. Bit of a kick in the nuts that Towers against Dave Allen was off because I was looking forward to that fight, and then instead we got Jason Gavin, which again was painful. But I think here you got 4 really, really good TV fights, and then get ready for April the 9th at the O2. There's so many things I want to tell you that's happening on April the 9th, but I can't tell you yet.
Any updates on Shannon Briggs?
No, I saw his interview. I spoke to him last week, I think. Messaged him. Saw his stuff with David Hay, which I thought was great. I didn't know how sort of... Was you there? Yeah, you were there filming. David looked a little bit uncomfortable with it all. It's quite... What do you do, though? Because I said this to Joshua. Say he comes up to you... Because you know what Josh is like, right? If he comes up to Josh and goes, yeah, I want to fight you. Shannon the Cannon, let's go check. Josh, what would Josh do?
He didn't get close enough to
No,
David.
but what would Josh do? He couldn't stop laughing, could he? He's not going to go, yeah, you what? He'd be like, Shannon Briggs, you're brilliant. But Hay looked a little bit uncomfortable. I think it done Hay a favour because the opponent was really underwhelming, and it sort of added, to the event.
Have you looked into all the stuff about medicals and things for it?
Oh, I said to Shannon Briggs, I said, obviously you have to get clearance. Medicals, you have to get clearance by the British Boxing Board of Control. He tells me they're in order. He's got to go through the process of getting them done. And if they're not, then obviously he won't be fighting. But I think he needs to just get his foot in the door in this market, and I think he's capable of all those big fights. I think Hay against Briggs is a big fight. The problem you've got, and I'm never going to feel sorry for David Hay because he's been a hugely successful fighter and he's done well for himself. But without going into this again, the pay-per-view model, you can't bring a big name. Like, he has got a certain budget for an opponent, and it's nowhere near enough to bring in a decent name. So therefore you get Arnold Greznic, or whatever his name is. Yeah, because and the same with Mark Demori. These guys want $1 million. 1.5, 2. I think, same with Charles Martin. You can't bring him over on Saturday Night Fight Night. Until boxing gets to a certain level where he can go to a Dave or he can go to a ITV and say, right, I need £3 million to make this fight. Well, we're so far away from that ever happening. So you look like the battery's back to. Yeah. So that's it.
Well, let's hope you and the Cannon can work something out.
Yeah, I'd like to get him on in Glasgow, and then I think one more, and I think he can fight in
Because I
it.
said to Shannon yesterday, I said that we spoke to Edster. He said, the old man, I'm just waiting for the paperwork, man. Tell Hearn, send that paperwork over to the Cannon.
I like him. I don't know what he's got left. I watched a few of his recent fights. He looks that dangerous. But I want all these guys, you know, Dave Allen, who we saw on Saturday. I'd love to see him in a real fight because he'll have it. He'll have a go. David Price, Dillian, Chisora if he loses. You know, even Sexton. You know, all these guys. Sling them in. Let's do a little round robin.
Heavyweight's buzzing. All right, Eddie Hearn, we'll catch up with you at some point over the
Don't
weekend.
forget, Conor Benn. Catch him on April the 9th.
Conor Benn. I know, we've got a press conference next Tuesday.
Tuesday with Nigel and Conor, yeah. Do you know, Nigel, it's obviously we've dealt with the Eubanks, and it's one extreme to the other. Have you noticed that Nigel stayed off Twitter because he doesn't want to talk? You know, he sent me a message the other day saying thank you so much for the announcement and the video. You know, the video we put out.
Yeah.
And he said take good care of my son. And it was like, no, but do you know how much that motivates you to do a job when someone gives you that responsibility? He doesn't, you know, and it must be hard. Your son is over the other side of the world, embarking on a professional career in the same industry, same sport you did. How hard must it be for Nigel not to be around? But he's doing what he feels is right. It's unbelievable. And you'll see him next year.